Hello, I'm Enzo, and how hard is it to beat Stoneblock? This is part 2. If you haven't watched the first part, the link will be in the pinned comment below. And if you haven't watched it, you'll probably have no clue what's going on right now. To get started, a lot of what's going on in the beginning of this episode is literally just me stalling, not wanting to make either the transmutation tablet or that dreaded infinity catalyst. Getting to actual business, to start with one of my next plans, I need stuff that you can get from loot bags. I really should have been using loot bags a whole lot more in this run because you can get some insanely good stuff and can help you skip a lot of steps. I didn't see that until, of course, it was way too late. For now, I need slime saplings and slime dirt from Tinker's Construct. This is so that I can make night slime ingots, eventually. Conveniently, these slime trees can also be grown in bonsai pots, which makes farming them a whole lot easier. After quite a while of those neutronium compressors I crafted however long ago, I finally have enough neutronium ingots to make the neutronium seeds and the catalyst that you need to actually grow them. So this is the biggest issue with the neutronium and all tier 6 seeds. They're legitimately not worth it to grow in my opinion, since I can't grow them in my beloved Garden Cloche, or at least I haven't tried. I wonder if you can put the catalyst beneath it and then something happens. I haven't tried that, but either way it just produces so little of whatever resource, for example neutronium or nether stars, that it's literally not worth the price. I think it's just better to mass produce neutron collectors, especially considering they're not that expensive at this rate. It's literally iron, redstone, quartz, and some diamonds and nether stars. Those are easy enough. This part was extremely cut down to basically explain, in the end, I'm stupid. So I need to mine out a massive area for my next project, and I figured out that the Supremium pickaxe is better than the Supremium hammer I made. And with the augment you can put onto it, you can mine in a 3x3, just like the hammer. So I wish I'd known that sooner. Then I was crafting these haste potions to speed up my mining, and I don't know how many hours it took me until I finally thought to look, and apparently you can just enchant the pickaxe. With efficiency 5, this thing instantly mines stone. Even with haste 3, I couldn't get haste 4 for some reason, it still doesn't insta-mine, so knowing all of that would have been way more useful. After I cleared out the area, I can finally start working on the Garden Cloche setup. And my few brain cells managed to figure out that you can do this, where you just put all the pipes in the middle, meaning you can stack the garden cloches closer together. I really don't know how, in all of my years of using these, I haven't thought of that before. And if you notice that I completely made a mistake when placing these in the wrong spot, well congratulations, you saw it way earlier than I did. Anyways, this is going to take me a while to fill out the entire room with these, so I'll be back. Another thing I haven't used in all my years of playing these mods is the freaking red print. Man, I wish I knew this thing existed so much earlier than I did. This is one of the most useful things I've ever found, because it's literally copy and paste settings from machine to machine. Now this is not the final machine setup, this is just a test, because my design wasn't 100% finished at this point, I was just testing a bunch of stuff. But yeah, red prints, insanely useful. They can be used on all thermodynamics machines and, more importantly, servos. Which means if I were smarter in another run, I could just carry one of these and never have to configure a servo by hand ever again. After quite a bit, I finally got at least a few rows of garden cloches set up, using endophores as the water source. But with this basic row of iron seeds set up, this is awesome. This gives me way more iron production, which is pretty neat. This gives me way more iron production, which will be necessary, obviously for the infinity catalyst, but is also useful in general. Since my cobblestone generators have been going this entire time, I finally managed to make a deep dark portal. I am playing in peaceful mode, so I don't think anything jumps out at you, because I know there's some sort of darkness thing here, but it's been way too long since I actually have been here. So it's basically a giant mining dimension, which is pretty neat, I'll admit, and there's a massive cave space in between. The whole gimmick of this place is, if you stay in the darkness for too long, you will take damage and eventually die. But like I said, I'm playing in peaceful, so nothing is spawning here. I don't really know what the point of this place is, like, actually, especially considering the other mining dimension exists, but it's still a pretty neat place. Another decent idea I had was to use the copy-paste gadget. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with machines, or at least these machines, which is truly tragic because that means I have to place all of these pipes and garden cloches manually, which is going to take far longer than I'd expected. But this is the method I chose to get all of my materials, so it is what it is. A long time later, I've gotten way more of this entire setup done. One major change you'll notice is the item ducts have been changed to impulse item ducts, which is just an item duct filled with glowstone. That's not difficult at all. The main reason for this is just the old item ducts weren't fast enough, so the lines were clogging up, and this seems to have fixed that. Now, I don't think I've explained it before, but the reason I have so many seeds for this entire setup is because I've set the seed chance to 100% in the mod settings, and the little farming station from Ender.io I have automatically harvests those seeds, and thus duplicates them. That is just to save me a whole lot of time and effort, because trust me, this took a long time in of itself. But now I have most of the ingredients for the Infinity Catalyst. I still have a few more I need, but it's just a matter of time of waiting for them to stockpile. And I can't remember if my math is 100% correct or anything, but I have 14 rows, which actually that's 14 rows of 12 now that I think about it. So okay, that makes a whole lot more sense. 14 rows of 12 is 168. Double that up, that is 336 garden cloches per side, and around 672 in total, which is just insanity. That's a ton of garden cloches and a lot of time placing everything for them. And I'm not even done. There are a couple of resources that I still need to finish it up, which I'm working on next. And would you guess? Well, we've all seen this before, so you probably know exactly what happened. It wasn't the microphone this time. It's just poor Windows programming. Literally, the only things plugged into my computer were my mouse and keyboard, and monitors at that time. So yeah, I'm just gonna chalk it up to bad Windows updates. The next major project I'm working on is making cosmic meatballs, which is part of the Infinity Catalyst. Now, apparently, I could have just gotten all the meats I needed from loot bags the entire time. I didn't need to spawn and breed all these different animals. I really wish I had known that earlier, but yes, at least I know now. That would have sped up this entire process a whole lot. Oh yeah, I also got a bunch of comments telling me about cooked apples, and yeah, that doesn't look balanced in the slightest to me. I wish I'd known about that as well, because that's pretty broken, especially for right at the beginning of the game. That might have even replaced golden carrots if I had known earlier. So yeah, thank you guys for telling me. After all this time, I've finally collected enough neutrons to make a neutronium block. Hey, neutronium from oxygen not included. And I can finally make the neutron or neutronium compressor. I immediately know what resource is going first to make a singularity, considering I overbuilt quartz just a tiny bit. Yeah, this is the material I make the most of by miles at this point. Nothing even compares. Iron and redstone are only close because I started them first. The major issue I notice is that it doesn't like to take inputs from item ducts. That's only an issue because I actually messed up the placement, and the neutronium compressor only likes inputs from the bottom or top. So after I figured out that in a test world, I can automate it, which is a good thing because I would lose my sanity if I had to input all these manually. As an average example, 12,000 divided by 64 is around 188. Yeah, considering I think it does like one a tick, that would take forever to manually insert one of these things. And I forgot how many ticks it is, but hoppers will also take quite a while. One of the easiest components to make is record fragments. It's literally just a music disc and you get 8 of them. Really easy, especially considering you can craft them from mystical agriculture. Obviously in normal versions this isn't 100% intended, but this is how I decided to do it. Obviously, I went with Chirp, as that is my favorite music disc. Another thing that isn't the worst to make is the Endist Pearl. It takes a bunch of Endstone, 1 stack of Ender Pearls, and this is 64, not 16, a Nether Star, and Neutronium. I threw it, but yeah, maybe that wasn't the best idea. Considering the insane amount of damage that caused, let's just say I may have reverted to an older save. It's finally at this point in the run where I figured out that a normal Supremium pickaxe with efficiency 5 equals instant stone mining. Yet again, I wish I'd known that from the start, but hey, now I do, and maybe you do as well. This means I can clear out areas way faster, as well as vein mining. So I'll clear out the exterior of what I want to mine so that there's no stone touching where I don't want to mine, and then yeah, vein mine the rest. It's pretty awesome. Besides the singularities, the other major item I need to make the Infinity Catalyst is the Ultimate Stew, which I have to start by buying a ridiculous amount of different types of seeds so that I can start growing all of the ingredients I need for it. It took me a bit of time, but I was extremely happy with the little farm I made. I built a storage system to manage all the foodstuffs because I don't want those going in with my main storage. After all, this place is made for making the cosmic meatballs and ultimate stew. But I don't have all the resources just yet, so I need to get all those first. The main things I really didn't expect from this whole setup is needing salt and pepper. So that complicated things a tiny bit, and I had to make a whole array of different machines to actually automate those 2 resources. And it was certainly very interesting to do all this, especially being able to grow seaweed in a garden cloche. That doesn't seem normal to me, but in the end I managed to get it all to work. As you can see here, this is the pure insanity of the Ultimate Stew. It takes almost a full inventory of various ingredients, some of which have complicated crafting recipes, especially the beetroot soup, which makes no sense because it's not a vanilla recipe, and I completely did not expect that. But that's why I was preparing all of these different ingredients and cooking tools so that I can actually make this stuff. I can finally make my ultimate stew, and we're getting ever closer to that elusive Infinity Catalyst. I also built another massive Garden Cloche setup. This is for my main storage system, in case I need any materials that I'm not producing from the other system. Well, I also put a bit of iron and redstone, coal, stuff like that I will always be needing here, just because. But since it's going to take a while to collect all the resources for those singularities, I might as well get back to working on the transmutation table. Now, a lot of these crafting recipes look scary at first, but they're actually quite simple. It really just requires zapping a bunch of different materials and zapping a bunch of quartz twice to eventually make the display stands and empowerer. The crafting recipes are quite simple, and so are the resources. I'm glad it wasn't that difficult. It truly did just look scary at first. Getting the power here was a little bit annoying though. I am very much running out of cryo-stabilized flux ducts. I definitely need to make more. Another important item is 4 energy condensers. These are, well, relatively easy to make, just extremely expensive. The diamond chest, yeah, those are easy, but all of the red and dark matter I need, yeah, those hurt. Thankfully, I've been producing plenty from my energy condenser setup, so I have a bit, but I actually overcalculated in the end. You see, I thought I needed double what I had made, so I made double, but no, I didn't need the extra. But who knows, it might come in handy later on. The next thing I need for the transmutation table is HDPE sheets, which is a form of plastic, I'm guessing. I don't know if it's real or not, I haven't checked. But it all begins with crushing wheat into biomass. That's the easiest part. Since I haven't used Mechanism in many years, I don't remember how most of it works. The second thing I need to do is electrolyze water into hydrogen and oxygen. Yes, I know it's called an electrolytic separator, but I'm gonna call it an electrolyzer, because I play oxygen not included. I also noticed that I think it outputs oxygen and hydrogen equally, which is absolutely wrong, by the way. It should be an 88:12 ratio of oxygen to hydrogen. So that's not realistic, but I guess this is Minecraft after all. Anyways, I was just trying to figure out how all the gas connections work, because trust me, it's kind of weird. The PRC, or pressurized reaction chamber, also requires water, which I'm taking from the sink. So I got a bunch of comments telling me about this, and yeah, for just costing a water bucket, iron, and terracotta, it's an infinite water source that never gets drained. It is just amazing. Back to the PRC though, we need that hydrogen, which it's white. I'm used to it being pink and oxygen not included. At least oxygen is blue, or light blue like it should be. And from that we get substrate, which we're gonna have to throw into the next part of the process. The substrate process itself actually produces ethylene as well. That ethylene needs to go into this rotary condensator, which will condense it into a liquid, because it's, a gas. And we're going to need that liquid for the final step of the process. Thankfully, this final step requires oxygen and the liquid ethylene we just made, as well as the substrate to finally make our HDPE pellets. These can be turned into sheets or rods, but obviously we're looking for the sheets. It also produces oxygen as a byproduct. It takes in 10 and outputs 5, so I just brought that back in. However, it will overflow eventually and I'll have to deal with that. But that's a problem for later, and I'll already have way more HDPE than I actually need. So that's neat. I actually love Mechanism, and I wish I used it more. I wonder if there's a pack based around it. I think that would be a ton of fun. So there's finally that part of the process completed. And a bit later on, I completely automated it, even though there's no reason to. I just felt like it. And now for the part I've been dreading. I've been avoiding Botania because honestly, I hate this mod. I've hated it for years. Even when I had help with it one time, I still didn't like it. At first, I was considering just cheating all the stuff in, but I thought, you know what, I'll give it a genuine attempt. It's been years since I tried it, so maybe I'll like it this time. I will spoil it. No, I still hate this mod. I understand it a bit better now, and it's not as bad as I thought, but I still don't like it. Anyways, it took a lot of reading to figure out what I actually had to do. Thankfully, I've already created a bunch of the mystical plants early on when I was trying to get the pink quartz for the end portal. We all know how that went. While I was growing a giant patch of grass to start Botania, and putting it off even further, I decided to make the night slime ingots that I need pretty quick. In the previous part, I have made the evil ingots, and they have no other use for me right now, so those are done. It's just night slime and Botania that's left. Night slime ingots are an interesting combination of stone, iron, and the purple slime that I started growing earlier. You just throw all of these into the furnace. Obviously, my ratios are way off because I kind of forgot what they actually outputted when they are smelted, but it doesn't really matter because the amount of night slime I made was definitely overkill. But there is no kill like overkill, so of course I had to do it, especially considering my just insane resource richness at this point. Okay, for real now, there's no more running away. Time to actually get into Botania. Since I have all of the flowers already, I put the flower into a crafting table, which you can get various petals based on the plant itself, and any petal can be used to make a petal apothecary. This is one of the most important parts of the entire pack. I thought it was a 2-block structure, but it is just one, and this is where we truly start everything. I actually had to grow some more flowers because I didn't have every single one I needed, the most important of which being white flowers, which I need to make white petals, and the first and probably most important flower in the entire pack, the pure daisy. Placing wood or stone around this block purifies it and is needed for quite a few Botania crafting recipes. One of the end goals is to make Terra Steel, because that makes a bunch of other cool stuff, including the freaking Terra Blade. Awesome, I love references to other games. But Terra Steel is quite a while off because we still have to make all the other stuff we need to make mana, to make more plants, to make runes, to make other stuff, and eventually Terra Steel. It's a long process. Starting out, we're going to be using the stone to make our basic mana pool. This is another very important block because this is where all the mana shenanigans go on. Now I just need some generating flowers that actually make the mana, and a mana spreader to put it in the pool. One of the first flowers we can make takes brown, gray, and red petals to make what is essentially a furnace flower. Okay, not a furnace, but a coal generator. A furnace generator, that's right. Which sounds a lot like Enzo as well, which I think is funny. I know Endo is like exo, like outer, hot, something like that, but still, Enzo, it's close enough. With the mana spreader and quite literally a branch, trying to figure out how all this works, because yet again, I have very little experience and I've forgotten how anything works with this pack. It's almost time. I just need a fuel source now. I read something about the efficiency, but I'm not 100% sure if you're supposed to use better stuff like lava buckets. I think it discouraged that. But this coal coke should work pretty well. It just took me a minute to figure out what key I'd set to drop yet again. I usually change my drop key from Q, especially because I'm using Q for vein mining, but more importantly so I don't accidentally drop my stuff into the void, for example. After a quick reload and switching to coal pieces because the stupid plants weren't working, I also made the rune pedestal. I need a bunch of different runes to make the Terra Steel aggregation plate, which will eventually let me make Terra Steel. Thankfully, I had plenty of mana steel from previous loot bags, and I turned those naturally into seeds and started growing them. I also had a few mana pearls, which is nice. To make runes, you need various items that are related to that sort of rune. Water, fire, air, earth. It all actually makes sense when you really think about it. Even though the ingredients were super easy to gather, I have an obvious problem, and that is mana production. This is going ridiculously slow. In the end, I did just stick with these furnace plants because they are the easiest. I made one other kind, but while looking through the lexicon, I found this hilarious plant. This consumes food to create mana, and the description is itadakimasu. I knew exactly what clip to play here. I even wrote it in chat. I think it's also funny that Celeste is a glutton just like the plant. I mean, in her other form, well, okay, that's complicated. Her weapon is literally a giant kebab. Anyways, now that I have all the runes that I actually need, as well as the mana steel and of course lapis, I can actually make the Terra Steel aggregation plate. So the main issue is Terra Steel takes a mana diamond, mana steel, and mana pearl. Those aren't the issue. It's the fact it just doesn't tell you how much freaking mana it takes. As you can see here, I added a bunch of new plants, including these water things. They just consume water and actually disappear in like a real life hour. And this is my main issue with this mod. I kind of figured it out at this point. And it is, of course, ambiguity. The mod just doesn't tell you enough. If it had a real mana number, and it told me how much each plant generates, how much the pool stores, what the percentages actually mean, and how much Terra Steel takes, that would be so much easier to work with and not be annoying like it is now. The other crazy thing is how I lost one of my mana pearls, mana steel, and mana diamonds, because those are insanely expensive, because they literally just timed out. I wasn't producing enough mana fast enough. I tried just about everything, and I guess I could have tried to make more plants, maybe something with slime chunks, but yeah, I'm just not. I've had enough of this mod. This is legitimately my best attempt I've given Botania in all of my playthroughs with it, so yeah, I tried at least. Yet again, if it just gave you more info on how much each plant generates, and how much everything costs, I think it would be so much better. I really hate how it calls itself a tech mod at the beginning of the book. No, this is magic, and that's the reason I hate magic mods so much. There is no information. It shows you how to do everything, sure, but it's not specific. There are a lot of games that have ambiguity issues. And it's funny, because when I was thinking about all of this, I remembered that Salmonella made an entire video on that. In the end, though, I just cheated in the items that I'm going to need later on. The Gaia Spirits and Pixie Dust. After a while, my absolute classic, which is looking through every single chest and bag I have to find what I'm looking for, is finally time to actually craft the transmutation table. This is a major step in progression because it'll help a ton with producing the singularities I need. Obviously, I produce way more of some resources than others, like diamonds and emeralds, so I can transmutate all the stuff I have excess of into those two. And I started with all of the cobblestone that I've been compressing over time, which I have quite a bit of. Showing again how good I am at procrastinating, I decided to make the solar panels, at least the highest tier I could, which is 8, which honestly, they aren't really worth the price, especially when you can just build a nuclear reactor, or like anything else, at least until the final tiers. After that though, I finally got to work creating all of the singularities, which, if you can't tell, is going to take quite a while. Even when it goes automatically using item ducts, yeah, it's still going to take quite a bit. I made a second neutronium compressor to make it go faster, but it's still pretty slow. Like I was saying, because the ratios of diamond and emerald to everything else is horribly off, I've been using the transmutation table to transmutate all of the other blocks, some of which, like Endurium and Flux Redstone, have crazy good values. So that made the whole process a bit quicker, so that made diamonds and emeralds easier, but yeah, there's a very obvious lack of those two. Diamonds are slightly easier because they have half the EMC of emeralds. Emeralds are definitely the worst. I keep forgetting the day counter is a thing, and that's a good sign of how long it takes me in between each of these clips. But now, at long last, I have everything needed to make one of those infinity catalysts. This is just ridiculous. This has got to be the craziest crafting recipe I've ever made. Granted, I don't play many mod packs, but yeah, this is just stupid. A single infinity catalyst with an EMC of 3.5 billion. It's just crazy. I can't believe it. Now, I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna disappoint most of you, and I do apologize, but that's it for this run. Okay, not entirely, but I'm not gonna continue on making more of these things. Look, I made that entire setup. You saw how long it took me just to make one of these. I don't know how long it would take me to make any more, and not to mention an infinity ingots. So that's it for the main part of this run. And my whole reasoning behind it is, well, reasonability. It just doesn't make sense to go further than this. I've already shown that I can make one of these, and I can probably make like some sort of better setup to get tons of EMC to duplicate these. Well, transmutate technically, but it's just not going to be worth the time and effort in my opinion. I think it's going to be a whole lot better for a viewer experience for me to be able to make multiple runs and stuff like that and not have this take me like a month plus to get out. That is my entire reasoning behind stopping here in terms of the Infinity Catalyst. To try and make up for that disappointment, I have a great idea. I got a comment telling me about these fluid cells, and they are just amazing. They're like stackable buckets, which is one thing I've always wanted in a mod pack. It especially helps when you're building a reactor. Oh yeah, did I mention I want to complete that reactor? I want the max size, which is normally 32 by 32, but I increased it to 33 by 33, and 48 tall. I want to max that thing out. Thankfully, since all the components can just be transmutated, I have plenty of EMC in there, so I need to do this. I thought I had enough resonant ender, but yeah, I'm gonna need way more, and production takes quite a while from the magma crucible. The largest issue was really trying to figure out how to deal with all the resonant ender that's there. If you walk into it, you get teleported. So I'm gonna have to clean all of that up, considering the sources are at the top, before I can actually start working on this. Thankfully, if I just empty a bunch of those cells back into the tank, I can clean it all up relatively easily, which is very nice. The biggest tragedy is that the copy-paste gadget doesn't like to work with these either, which is insanely annoying because that would have made this so much faster, but I guess it is what it is. Price I pay for not completing the infinity ingots. Again, by the day counter, you can see just how long it's taking me to do all of this, but now the worst part, filling in all of the cells with the resonant ender. Thankfully, I've done this very many times, so I know what I'm doing. Like I said earlier, Resonant Ender is a major issue, but Ender Pearls smelt instantly in a smeltery, which I did not know before, so that made this whole process a whole lot quicker than it otherwise would have been. The Magma Crucible, even maxed out with all augments, is still very slow. With that though, I can finally seal up the rest of the reactor, and I had to fix a little hole that I somehow left on the other side, but now it is completely done. 33 by 33 by 48. Actually, it may not the largest I've ever built, but a fully working one? Yeah. The only issue now is that I have to fuel it, and that's going to take a ridiculous amount of yellorium, considering the size. With it all fueled, it's finally time to start it up. The power was climbing rapidly. Unfortunately, it kind of slowed down, and it only produced 2 million RF. 2 mega RF? I'm not exactly sure. And it's even less than that technically. Really disappointing considering the one that was just 3 wide produced 200,000. So it doesn't make much sense unless I'm just completely crazy, but, well, if you really think about it, no, it should definitely be more, because it's a 6 times size increase, but it's 10 times power increase? Maybe my math just isn't adding up, but it doesn't make much sense to me. I really thought it would have been way more power considering the pure size. I'm still happy with it. It is such a massive and awesome reactor. But with that being my final goal, the run is over. I did the math, and taking out about 10 hours because of AFKing, this run took just over 70 hours in total. It's 80 in all, but minus 10. That's just ridiculous. It was super fun and interesting, especially at the beginning. My enjoyment of runs usually does go down as the run progresses, and that was pretty noticeable here considering I didn't truly finish the pack. But yet again, it would just be unreasonable time-wise to do so. Overall though, a very cool pack, minus Botania. I hate that mod, and I really don't ever want to do it again. And it let me do my classic Garden Cloche, just mystical agriculture setup. As you can see, it's just absolutely beautiful. Anyways though, thank you all for watching, I really appreciate it. And a special thank you to all of my channel members. This is going to be a tired Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.